The prince waited some more. He stepped up to the tower. In a voice that sounded as much like the witch as he could, he called out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." In a moment, the same long blonde braid came out of the window. "It works," thought the prince. He climbed up the tower wall. You can be sure Rapunzel was very surprised to see the prince climb into her window. She had never seen a person up close before other than the witch, much less a man. "Who are you?" she said in fear. "Do not worry," said the prince. "I am a friend." "I do not know you," said Rapunzel. "I feel as if I know you," said the prince, "since I have heard you singing every day. You have a beautiful voice. I love it when the birds sing with you, too." "You know about that?" said Rapunzel. "It may be the only thing I like, since I have no choice but to stay here in this same old tower day after day my whole life long." Rapunzel told the prince about the witch. She told him that since the world was such a very bad place, she must always stay in the tower room. "But the world is not as bad as all that," said the prince. He told Rapunzel about flowers and festivals, gardens and games, puddles and puppies, strawberries and secrets. She was fascinated. And so many hours went by. At last Rapunzel said to the prince, "You must go. The witch may come back at any time." "Very well," said he, "but I will be back tomorrow." Rapunzel threw her braid out the window, and the prince climbed down. The next day the prince climbed back up to Rapunzel's room. He said, "I have a surprise for you." He had brought her a basket of strawberries. As she tasted a strawberry, Rapunzel thought, "What I was told is not true. The world can be a very fine place. What else is there that I am missing?" She said to the prince, "I must get out of this tower as soon as I can. But how?" Part 4. Escape. The prince said, "I can come and go by holding on to your braid. But once I am down, the problem is, how do we get you down too?" Then suddenly Rapunzel had an idea. "Bring me a ball of silk each time you come. I will weave the silk into a ladder. Silk folds up so small that the witch won't see it. When the ladder gets long enough to reach the ground, I will follow you by climbing down the silk ladder." "That will work," cried the prince. He moved closer to Rapunzel. "You know, out in the world, when two people like each other very much, they can do something very special. It's called getting married, and that means the two people can be together always. Do you think you might want to get married someday?" "Maybe," said Rapunzel. "There is so much I have to learn about the outside world, and we can still spend time together even if we are not married. Isn't that right?" "Of course," said the prince, thinking that he can be patient. Every day after that, the prince brought one ball of silk to Rapunzel. Over time, she weaved the silk into a long ladder. On Rapunzel's 18th birthday, the witch spoke to her in a sharp voice. "I am sick and tired of hearing you go on and on about being alone in this tower all the time. Know this, Rapunzel, that is not going to change. You will stay in this tower forever." "Who says I'm alone in the room all the time?" said Rapunzel. "What?" said the witch. "Who's been up here with you?" "No one," said Rapunzel at once in fear. "I mean, no one but you." The witch did not believe her. She looked everywhere in the room for something to prove that someone else had been there. She found the ladder and held it high in the air. She yelled, "What is the meaning of this?" "My friend the prince brought me the silk and I made the ladder," said Rapunzel. "You will never see this prince again," yelled the witch. She took out a knife. Snip, snap, and Rapunzel's lovely braid was cut off. Holding the braid in one hand, the witch laughed an evil laugh. Then, with a stroke of her magic, Rapunzel was cast off to a faraway desert. But the witch stayed in the tower room. She knew the prince would soon return. Part 5. The Last Climb. The witch did not have to wait long. Before long, the prince was calling at the bottom of the tower. "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." "So that is how he did it," said the witch. Holding tightly to one end of Rapunzel's braid, she threw the braid out the window. The prince took hold and climbed up. When he got to the window, he was very surprised to see the witch. "Where is Rapunzel?" he called out. "What have you done with her?" "You will never see Rapunzel again," howled the witch. And the old woman pushed the prince so hard that he lost hold of the window. Down, down he fell. The prince landed on some bushes. That helped with the fall, but the bushes had thorns and some went into his eyes. The prince was blinded. Part 6. The Desert. For 2 years, the poor blind prince wandered the world looking for Rapunzel. From morning to night he called for her, but it was no use. At last he reached a desert. One day he heard beautiful singing. "I would know that voice anywhere," he exclaimed. It was his dear Rapunzel. He went closer and closer to the voice he knew so well. My prince! Called Rapunzel when she saw him. The two of them hugged tight. 2 tears of joy dropped from Rapunzel's face into the eyes of the prince. All at once he could see again. What happened next? Well, you may have a pretty good idea. The prince and Rapunzel went back to the kingdom where the prince lived. During all that time apart, both of them came to realize that it was right between them, and decided to be married. A few years later, the prince became the king of the land and Rapunzel became queen. The two of them lived happily ever after, as may you. The end.
Abia aștepți următoarea poveste? Abonează-te la canalul de YouTube Totul este posibil pentru a primi o notificare când publicăm noile episoade. Noapte bună, copii!